Okay, I'm going to do question 1 of the 2018 Exemplar question paper. 2018, question 1. Okay, question 1 is the general programming skills. It's usually the easier question in the question paper. I would recommend that you read through the whole question first and have a look at the GUI, because sometimes you might not quite understand what the instructions are at the question, and then when you look at the GUI you will notice that maybe there's going to be input for the player name, for the email, and then when you click on a button you want to register a player, so maybe the GUI will also help you answer the question. So we're going to go to question 1. Okay, so I'm going to start with question 1.1. Register player. Write code to use the information entered in the player name and email edit boxes to compile a registration message. A message that indicates that the registration was successful must only be displayed if the information has been entered in both the edit boxes. Okay, so they need to enter information in both edit boxes. Otherwise, an error message must be displayed. The message must be compiled in the following format. It's the player name with the email address has been registered. Okay, here's the example or output. Okay, so this looks like a show message. We're going to display over here. Example of output if no information has been entered in one of the edit boxes. So I'm going to go to register player, click, and it's a simple if statement. If this edit box, if it's empty, so I'm going to copy the name out. If this edit text. Okay, there's different ways to do this. I'm going to work according to the memo. If the text is bigger than nothing, and as soon as I put the and in, I'm going to put some round brackets in. Okay, so both sides of the and I'm going to put in brackets. So if the edt name.text is bigger than nothing, and the second one, the email, must also be bigger than nothing. The text should be bigger than nothing. Then I want to display the message. Let's have a look at the layouts again. Okay, I said the player name, then the string with an email address, and then the email address has been registered. So let's start off with the name. The name was entered in the edt name. So I'm going to copy this. edt name.text plus. So I'm going to add some strings here. I'm going to concatenate some stuff. Okay, so I'm going to go to with email address. With email address. Address. And then let's put space there. Plus the email that was entered in this edit box over here, plus then there's some more information that I need to, I think it has been registered. Okay, has been registered. Else, as soon as I put in the else, I'm going to remove the semicolon in front of it. Else begin and end. I'm going to show message some info is not provided. Okay, so all the required data was not provided. All the required data was not provided. Okay, let's test it. Have a look. I need a semicolon after this line. It's only the semicolon in front of the else that I need to remove. So that's the one behind the end. And I still need my round bracket of my show message. Here's the opening one, so I need the closing one at the back. Same over here. I missed the closing one. Okay, Jim Jones, register player. Jim with email address Jones has been registered. Okay, it's not a legit email address, but just to test the string over there. Okay, let's remove Jones. All the required data was not provided, so it's actually working. I didn't enter the email address, so display the information that all the required data was not provided. Okay, so let's go to the next question. The LAN party organizers provide meals to the players. The meals have to be ordered from the following menu. Okay, toasted sandwiches 25 Rand, burger and chips 32 Rand 80, medium-sized pizza 45.75. The user must select one of the meals from the combo box and the number to be ordered from the spin edit box. The user must tick the checkbox if the vegetarian version of the selected meal is preferred. Okay, write the code to calculate the amount to be paid based on the selected information. Decrease the amount by 10% if the vegetarian option has been selected. Display the calculated amount in the edit box provided, formatted to a currency with 2 decimal places and in blue text. Okay, so let's have a look at the GUI. Okay, so the user is going to enter or select the meal that he wants. Then he's going to select the amount of meals, and then he can check the vegetarian option. If it's vegetarian, we need to add 10% to the total. Okay, so first thing is we have to do is we have to check which one of the meals was selected in the combo box. Okay, so calculate cost per meal. Question 1.2. You can use an if statement, but I'm going to use a case statement. Case. And the combo box that we are working with is the combo CB meal options. And I'm going to check the item index, because the item index is going to tell me which one of the meals is actually selected. Okay, so if it's option 0, that means the first one is selected. Okay, so I'm going to add a variable, or I'm going to declare a variable, or meal price. Okay, our meal price, not integer, it's a real. And I'm going to say, if the first one is selected, the price of the meal, if I remember correctly, it was 25 Rand. If the second one is selected, that means the item index will be 1. Remember, if nothing is selected, the item index will be -1. If the first one is selected, it's 0. If the second one is selected, it's 1. So if the second one is selected, I'm going to set the meal price to 32 Rand 80. If the third one is selected, I'm going to set the meal price to 45 Rand 75. Okay. So case statement works with ordinal data types. That's data types with a sequential orders, for example, integers or characters or booleans. The item index is a integer data type, so we can use the item index in a case statement. Otherwise, we would have needed to use the if statements. Okay, a few if statements. You can still do this one of the if statement, but I think the case statement will make it just a little bit easier. Okay, then next step, I already assigned the price to the meal now, so now I want to calculate the meals times. I want basically to multiply it with the value in the spin edit, the number of meals. So I'm going to take the price times the number of meals, and I'm going to create another variable, or meal cost, because that's the cost of the meal. So our meal cost is equals to the meal price times whatever the user entered in the set num meals spin edit. Okay, so the value of the set num meals times the meal price. So let's say it was option 1 and I choose 2 meals. It will be 25 Rand in here times 2 is equals to 50 Rand. Okay, so it's gonna, and where do I need to display that? I will need to display it in the EDT cost. Okay, and everything that we display is going to be displayed as strings, so I need to convert this meal cost. Okay, and they asked us it should be formatted to a currency with 2 decimal places. Okay, so and then I need to use the float to string function. I want to convert the R meal cost. I want to convert it to a fixed format of a currency with 6 values and 2 decimal values. So I'm going to say float to string. Okay, float to string. I need the R in there. Okay, let's just choose the easy option. Toasted sandwiches is the 25 Rand one. I want 2 meals and it is 50 Rand. So 25 times 2 is 50, so that is working. Now I can check for the checkbox. If this checkbox is checked, I need to, let me just have a look here, we need to decrease the amount. So I need to subtract 10% from the cost of the meal. So I'm going to say R meal cost is equals to R meal cost times 0.9 to subtract 10% from the meal cost. Okay, let's just test it. Okay, toasted sandwich 2. Now it's 45 Rand. Okay, so it's working. Let's go to, wait. We still need to change the color of the font of that button, of the edit box. So it's EDT cost dot font dot color is equals to CL blue. Okay, let's just make it something else. 3 meals, 8 rand. Okay, so and the font color is blue, change to blue. Okay, so next one is 1.3, the number of players, calculate the tables and the power that is required. Okay, so let's have a look at the question. Okay, the number of tables required for the number of players will take part must be calculated. Each table at the venue can accommodate 6 players. A constant variable table size is provided. Okay, so 1.3, here's the constant table size and is set to 6. Write code to calculate the minimum numbers of tables that will be required to accommodate the number of players that was entered in the relevant edit box. Also write code to calculate the total amount of power that is required by the computers used by the players. Okay, so before we go on with this one, let's first calculate this. Okay, display the calculate values in our edit box is provided. Okay, so we need to basically, if they enter the value 86, we need to divide by 6 to get the number of tables. But then it might be, we might end up with 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 people on a table that remains. So to calculate that, we need to use the mod. Okay, so if I say 86 mod 6, if there's a remainder, then I know I need to add 1 more table to the number of tables. Okay, but firstly I'm gonna just divide to get the number of tables. I'm gonna make a variable I num players. Integer. Okay, the number of players is entered in this edit box, edt num players dot text. Okay, this is entered as a string, so I need to convert it to an integer to do the mathematical calculation. So I'm going to say string to int. Then I'm going to take the number of players divided by the table size. Then I need to put that answer somewhere as well. So let's make a new variable I number of tables. Okay, so the I number of tables is equals to the number of players, and when we divide with a integer, we must use div. Okay, so I'm dividing, let's say it enters 86, 86 divided by 6 is 14, and then I need to check whether there's any remaining people that also needs a table. So then I'm going to say if the number of players mod, because mod will give us the remainder, mod table size, if it's more than 0, that means that there's some people left that needs a table. Okay, if there's somebody that still needs a table, I'm gonna increase the number of tables by 1. Okay, then I will increase the number of tables by 1, and I must display that in this edit box over here. Okay, it's output, so it's string, so I need to convert the number of tables from an integer to a string. So it's int to str. Okay, so it was, let's enter 86, and that means that we need 15 tables for 86 people. Okay, let's check the second part of the question. Also write the code to calculate the amount of power that will be required by the computers used by the players, rounded. Okay, so we need to round this off. Rounded to the nearest kilowatt. Assume that the average amount of power required by a computer is 0.66 kilowatts. Also assume that each player will use one computer during the event. And that makes it actually a little bit easier, because we just need to take the number of players and multiply it by 0.66, and then we need to round that off. Okay, so I'm gonna say the number of players times 0.66, and I need to put that in somewhere. Okay, so I said we must also round it off, so I'm going to use the round function, and I need to put it somewhere here, so I need to declare a new variable. Let's make it I power. I think the integer will work because it's already rounded off to a whole number. Okay, so number of players times 0.66, rounded off, put it in I power, and then I need to display it. I need to display it in this one over here, edt power. ed power text output, so it's a string, so I need to convert this integer to display it in the edit box. So it's going to be int to str. I'm going to use 86 again. And let's see if the data is correct. 57 kilowatt required. So 57 is correct. Okay, let's go to the last one. Usually the last part is a little bit more difficult than the first few questions. The organizers must buy units of electricity before hosting a LAN party. The user must enter the total number of units of electricity required to host the event in the provided edit box. Write code to randomly generate a value in the range from 50 to 149, which represents the estimated daily usage of electricity during the event, and display the value in the relevant edit box. So you need to pick a random number between 50 and 149, and that must be displayed over here. Okay, write the code to calculate the number of units left after each day's gameplay using the estimated usage figure. Display the information as shown in the example below. The memo box must be cleared before the output is displayed. Okay, the example of the output: if a value 500 was entered for the number of units the organizers plan to buy, and the random value of 89 has been generated as the estimated daily usage figure. Okay, the output will depend on the units entered and the randomly generated daily usage figure. Okay, so the user is going to enter number of units. You're randomly going to pick a number between 50 and 149, and then you must basically repeat. So we're going to use a while loop to repeat until this value over here, which will be subtracted by this value after every loop, is actually smaller than the daily usage, the value over here. Okay, they said the memo must be cleared every time, so I'm going to start with that. Memo 1, not memo 1, it's let's check the name, mem display. Okay, clear. Then I'm going to make a variable, the number of units. Units is an integer, and the number of units is entered in the first edit box. This edit box here, edt units, edt units.text. Okay, so it's entered as a string, so I need to convert it to an integer to do mathematical calculations with it. str to int, and then I'm going to pick my random number. Usage, I'm going to use the variable usage, so I need to declare that variable as well. It's going to be integer usage, and I'm going to use random range. Okay, random range, I want to pick a random number between, let's go check, random number between 50 and 149. So I'm going to say random number between 50 and 150, because random range is not going to include the 150. It will only go up to 149. To be able to use the random range function, I need to add math to the users here on top. Okay, so I'm going to add math to the users. Going to pick a random number, put it in usage, and then I want to display that value in the edt daily usage edit box. Okay, it's a string. My daily usage is an integer, so I'm going to convert it from int to str. Let's run it to see whether the first output is correct. It's like 200, calculate days, and it picks a random number of 106. Okay, so let's go to the next step. I'm gonna say while the number of units is bigger or equal to the usage, the daily usage, I want to display the units in the memo. But first I need to subtract, I need to take the units, the current units minus the daily usage, and then I want to display that in my memo. Mem display dot lines dot add. I want to add the number of units left. Okay, it's int to string because it's integer, and my memo is going to display it as a string. Let's use the example 500. Okay, so 500 minus 116 is 384. So it's going to continue displaying it until the number of units that's left, 36, is smaller than the daily usage. Then the loop will stop, it will jump out of the loop, and it will not display another one. Okay, but we still need to display some other information in there as well. Units after day 1. Okay, so we need a counter to count the number of days that this thing is running. So I'm going to say a variable I count. I'm going to start iCount off with 0. And every time my while loop runs, I'm going to increase iCount by 1 to count the days for me. And then I want to display the number of days as well inside my memo. int to str, and the other message I need to display is units after day, then plus the amount of days plus the number of units left. Okay, let's test the output. 500 units after day 2 is 344, so I still need to add something here. Plus, I think that might work. Okay, units after day 1 is 363, units after day 2 is 226, units after day 3 is 89. 89 is smaller than the 137, so it's going to jump out of this while loop and it's going to end. Okay, and that is the end of question 1. So in question 1 you can definitely expect some mathematical calculations like mod, or mathematical functions like mod or random, and you will do some mathematical calculations with integers and real variables. Okay, mostly grade 10 work, and it's not too difficult, but don't waste too much time on question 1. If you just first answer all the stuff that you can, go through the rest of the question paper, then you can come back to question 1 and do some fine-tuning for some of the questions over here.